What is unique about ISG? If you could start there, like tell our audience, because I think a lot of our audience has probably been your customer or you've worked with them, but give us an idea of like, hey, what is ISG? What does it do? And like we'll kind of walk through like how you got there, because this is going to be fascinating how you can oversee a practice that can, because we looked at some of the things that you guys are advising on. For example, we've just started like a Web3 practice group, and I'm thinking to myself, like, Web3 just came out. Like, how can someone be so so versed in it that they could actually give advice? You know what I mean? I don't
I
even
know
know
what
what
you
it
mean.
is.
Right.
But why don't we start there? What is ISG? What do you guys do? And then talk a little bit about yourself.
Sure. If you look at that $20 billion, and it's this number is growing year by year. So last year it was 19. We guess next year it's going to be 22. So all of this tech spend is, as you're right, it gets spent on the Deloittes, the Accentures, Infosys, Wipros of the world. It also gets spent on the SAP, Salesforces of the world. But all these decisions have to be taken and structured and contracted. So how do you do service design, structure, and contracting at the same time? You can only do it with someone who knows what they're doing, and now comes the but has no conflict of interest in implementation.
Like a consumer reports almost of technology, like, right?
There you
That's like
go.
the how they work is
Yeah,
they say, hey, we don't take ad dollars, so we don't
yeah,
owe anybody a good review.
exactly. So think of us as consumer reports sitting on the other side of the table of a Fortune 100 before and during their talk with Accenture, Deloitte, SAP, and Salesforce. These are just examples.
In general, like a massive implementation for anyone who's listening who's not from a big company. If you're in an enterprise buyer seat, you already know how this game works. If you're not in an enterprise buyer seat, let's put it this way: every decision at scale is a massive one. You're talking about, even if it's something small, like someone's like, hey, I want to install Slack. Slack's $8 a user. Okay, it's not a problem, but Slack for a 400,000 person firm is a big problem. Or it's not a big problem, but
Yeah.
it's a big decision. Give us an idea of how you do it, how you go about learning about these technologies, how they work, how you get your information.
So a lot of us have spent time on the other side. So I'm ex Accenture, by the way, just by way of example, right? So we've all spent our time on the other side, and we tend to think of ourselves as player coaches. We were
Hmm.
players, and now we are coaches. So we are a niche firm. We are 1,300 people managing this to
Hmm.
$20 billion, and all of us have seen such transformations in the past. And it's never just about technology. It's about people, process, and technology, and how this triangle comes together in terms of design and in terms of commercials. So we bring
Yeah.
this
And
together. You start with something very vague like smart shop floor or digital thread or digital twin or autonomous driving. And then you break this down into 16 blocks and say how much of these 16 blocks should be built versus bought. And if bought, do you buy software? Do you get someone like Accenture to come and implement this for you? Or what mix thereof? How much should this cost? How much are others paying for this? What are benchmarks in the market? What's the reality versus hype? That's where we come in.
yeah, so how do you go about collecting this information to help make these recommendations? Because you mentioned certainly there's experience, right? You mentioned you guys have all sat on the other side of the negotiating table before. You've probably got some team members that have implemented these technologies or seen it implemented or directly at project leads on some of these. But how do you generally collect your information? Because like a big company investment in technology is not quite like, our earlier example, consumer reports. Consumer reports, I can buy a car, drive it around, right? Like that's easy. But implementing something across 1,000 employees is very hard. No one's going to let you test that on them. You know what I
I
mean? Like you
know,
got to
I know.
know, or you've had to either done it.
Yeah,
So how do you gather enough information to make a good recommendation?
that's a great question because there are two sides of this question. The first side is, let's call it the buy side or the demand side. And that's about understanding what a Fortune 100 is trying to do versus, and that's the more important part, what are the others doing? What are the others doing and how far are they and how are they going about the exact same topic? We're taking patterns from retail and consumer goods and applying it to automotive and vice versa because they have the same issues, right? Sales and after sales is sales and after sales. So we start looking at how these large programs get structured, sourced, and commercially contracted. We bring that experience into one program. And think of this as the demand side, or how does one structure something like that. The other side of this is the supply side. So since we don't implement ourselves, the tech platforms of the world, the system integrators of the world, stay in constant touch with us and keep us up to date on what they are seeing, right? So we are like the spider in the net, Albert, right? So we're getting it from all ends. We are the David of this company, helping the Goliaths talk to each other.
Hey, thanks for watching. This segment is brought to us by Salesforce Platform. Visit salesforce.com/newsletter to discover timely insights and useful tips tailored to your role. Subscribe to this channel and get more great IT and tech interviews with top industry leaders.